Hey guys, I wanted to make a video the past couple of days, but the idea comes to my head in the wrong time. I can't make it then, and then I forget about it later. Anyway, um, so I'm starting to understand better what TE is, what extroverted thinking is, and like a deep conceptual understanding about the difference and the distinction between TE and TI, and what exactly TE is. Not like, oh, you think about stuff on the outside, oh, you are forceful, and no, like a real understanding of what it is. It's structuring your life, and thinking then is extroverted. So the thing between extroverted functions and introverted functions is that introverted functions give you a sense of ownership to them, so you feel that you own them. So in my case, I feel like that I own my understanding, that this understanding, this perspective, this interpretation is mine. And same goes for NI. So NI users, if they have this insight or whatever, it is theirs. I mean, they feel that this was conceived by me, it came from me, I gave birth to this insight, this idea, and it is mine. It is not out there for everyone to use. No. They feel it is yours. They feel it is theirs. So that's the difference here between extroverted functions and introverted functions. Is that extroverted functions, they're not yours. I mean, you don't feel a sense of ownership to them. You feel that they are outside of you, but you happen to be the one observing and processing them. But they are objective. They are outside of you. And so the thing about thinking in general is that it structures things. I mean, extroverted thinking. Extroverted functions and introverted functions are the same thing, except their orientation and direction is different. But they are ultimately, fundamentally, inherently the same thing. Except that if it's pointed inwards, it behaves and comes out differently, and if it's pointing outwards, it behaves and comes out differently. But it is ultimately the same thing. And the difference here between introversion and extroversion is that introversion is pinpoint accuracy. It is focused on one thing. It's laser focused on that one thing, as opposed to extroversion, which is more broad. So introversion is focused on depth overall, like in general, and extroversion is more focused on breadth and surface level, more superficial things, but they're like much more broad. And they're focused on many things at the same time, as opposed to introverted functions, which are focused on one thing at a time. So me and my introverted thinking, I can't think of two things at the same time. Of course nobody can, but with extroverted thinking, you can keep track and apply logic to multiple things simultaneously. Not really simultaneously, but closer to simultaneously than introverted thinking. Introverted thinking can only focus on one thing and have laser tunnel vision focus on that one thing, and just loses sight of everything else around it. Just does one thing at a time. That's it. And is fully invested into the one thing, and so it goes into depth. It's kind of like you have a certain amount of resource, and if you apply it inwardly, there's only one thing inside of you, which is you, and so all of that resource is allocated on top of each other, creating depth. While if you focus it outwards, which is extroversion, there's a lot of things outside of you to keep track of at the same time. There's lots of different directions and objects, and there's like a lot of stuff outside of you. So it focuses on breadth, as opposed to one thing which is inside of you, which is focused on depth. I kind of imagine it that way. Now, thinking specifically is a function for structuring things. It's for making things work together in harmony. Now the only difference I would say between thinking and feeling is that thinking is about external systems, about things that are outside of humanity, outside of human beings. It's not, it's outside, it's based on objects, it's based on systems, concepts, facts, and not based on human stuff, right? But feeling is focused on human stuff, like feelings, relationships, social gatherings, traditions and culture. It's focused on, like, if a feeler type says the world is this, the world is that, they're talking about the people, the cultures, the societies, the countries, the nations of the world. Not the infrastructures. But thinkers, if they say the world, they're talking about the physical planet, they're talking about nature, they're talking about the different political systems, they're talking about the climates, the weathers. They're talking about, you know, those kinds of stuff. Now, both functions, feeling and thinking, they want harmony, they want consistency, they want that same thing. But feeling wants harmony and consistency throughout the feelings and relationships between human beings. Extroverted feeling wants to actually make that happen and see it happen objectively. Introverted feeling is more focused inward. So introverted feelings wants to do that harmony the harmony thing towards themselves, inwardly. And also because it's focused inwardly and it's focused on depth, they want the same thing for other individuals subjectively. So they don't want it to happen objectively for large groups of people. They want it to happen for the individuals themselves subjectively. They want to know deeply, for sure, beyond any reasonable doubt, that that person they're trying to help actually was helped. It's not enough that they say that they got the help they needed. It's not enough to see that, oh, they don't have any symptoms, so they're fine. No. They want to actually know that person is happy, that person is smiling, that person is having fun, all that kind of crap. They're much more deep and subjective and personal and empathetic, as opposed to extroverted feeling, which just wants to see them, observe the people, the human beings, showing positive signs and not showing negative signs. It's very objective and, in a way, paradoxically detached, in a way. While thinking, again, going back to thinking, is focused on doing the same thing. It's all based on harmony and consistency. So, like, again, back to feeling, feelers want to see consistency in people. Extroverted feeling wants to see consistency and harmony in feelings of other people objectively. And if there's an inconsistency in their objectively showing feelings, like the way that other people objectively show their feelings through signs and expressions and bullshit and stuff like that, the extroverted feeler wants to they see that inconsistency as irritation, as something that's inconsistent, not perfect harmony. I don't like that. Let's try to make that better. And then they do their thing of making jokes or whatever, and they make it more consistent with their feelings. You know, they're very objective in their approach to making the world a better. Making the groups of people around them better and happier and stuff like that. Yeah, so the feelers here want consistency and harmony through the relationships and feelings of people, while I got a message, don't worry about it. So while thinking wants to do the same thing, but for external systems. So let's start with the extroverted thinker. The extroverted thinker wants to see the consistency and harmony logically, emotionally detached in external humans and external systems, not humans, in external systems. So like the stairs have to be consistent in their height and distance and the depth of the stair steps. It has to be like that. If it's wrong, that's not making me feel so right. I have to change that and see it, observe it being consistent and see everybody using those stairs consistently without thinking about taking the steps, but automatically, instinctively, and intuitively taking the steps. Because the steps I'm using the steps as an example because there's steps outside here. I don't know if you can see it. There's steps right there. Because the steps, they kind of like, I mean, they are the steps, the stairs, those steps are a system of their own, and it's external, and it's not a human thing. So extrovert thinking, you know, and the ramp has to, like, it has. I mean, this ramp here along, right? This ramp here for wheelchairs and stuff. The extroverted thinker is gonna see it and see, is it too steep? Is it too steep? Is it too curved? The curvature, is it too much? Is it too sharp? And it's very objective in their observations of that. And if it's not following the standards and the way it's supposed to be as a ramp, then that causes some sort of irritation or discomfort for the extroverted thinker, and they have to make that better. They have to change that to be consistent, to be logically harmonious with the overall system and the structure around it. That's extroverted thinking. I just got that today, just now. So the extroverted thinker is like that. It's the same as extroverted feeler, but instead of the people world, you have the object world, you know, or nature or stuff like that. And it's very objective, of course, you get that. But I mean that they don't, like, if they don't observe it, it's fine. If they don't see that it is broken, if they don't observe that it is broken, then to them it's not broken. Period. It doesn't matter what they think. That is what extroverted thinking tells them to believe. If someone else, like an introverted thinker, is thinking this ramp is, something's wrong with it, I don't like it, but the extroverted thinker says, well, it's not too steep, it's not too sharp in the curvature, it's a ramp, it's smooth enough, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. If you use it, it's gonna work, right? Then it's fine. That's how the extroverted thinker is gonna see it. And then if the introverted thinker is thinking to themselves and thinks and is thinking, oh, I wish I wasn't covering the mic this whole time. I think I was. I really hope I wasn't, because I was talking a lot and I don't know when I stopped. I mean, yeah, anyway, so I hope I wasn't covering the microphone. If I was, let me know in the comments, because I'm not gonna watch this. I'm just gonna upload this. I hope I wasn't covering the microphone, because that would fucking suck ass. Okay, I don't want to repeat all of this. Anyway, back to the thing. And then if the introverted thinker tells the extroverted thinker, but it's not as good as it can be. It can be better, and like it's not smooth enough. Oh, there's a mistake here. Oh, there's, you know, the subjective introverted thinker might sense some inconsistencies there, but chances are, like in this example, just talking about this specific example here that I'm making up, those inconsistencies that the introverted thinker is aware of are not objective. It's kind of like his subjective inner perception of that ramp is something wrong with it. And like, he might be right, he might be wrong, but the objective thinker is thinking, okay, you tell me that, I understand that you're an introverted thinker and you think in a different way. I'll take that objectively into account, but the ramp is perfectly fine. I'll tell you what, if you, the introverted thinker, can give me a reason and show me why it's wrong and how to fix it, or at least just pinpoint or point to me what's not working, I will look into it. Okay? That's how the extroverted thinker is going to behave with this, and how he's going to think, while the introverted thinker is much more in their head. But they're both doing the exact same thing, except that the okay, so thinking is about structuring consistently and